You can get it in a box or you can have it in a wrap. You can have it any day, but some only get it on Valentine's Day. What am I referring to? It's chocolate. Today is National Chocolate Day, a fitting time to indulge in all this delicacy has to offer. Now, enjoy your favorite treat and join us for this exciting edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Audrey Williams. To keep the sweetness going, we have a great package wrapped up just for you. So don't go anywhere. There's more after this.
Was chocolate milk invented in Jamaica? Well, history has it that the first use of the term milk chocolate was for a beverage brought to London from Jamaica in 1687. The vehicle was one Sir Hans Sloane, physician to the governor of Jamaica. The story is that he was introduced to chocolate tea by slaves whom he saw drinking it. They told him that it was more delicious with milk and that the chocolate tea was also good for health. Sloane went back to England and produced milk chocolate, which later became Cadbury's. But it was not until the Swiss inventor Daniel Peter successfully combined cocoa and condensed milk in 1875 that the commercial milk chocolate bar was invented. Celebrating Jamaica 60 with pieces of our history.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Friday, October 28, 2022. Jamaica's efforts to manage HIV/AIDS infections have been boosted by the opening of a new care facility at the Kingston Public Hospital. The facility, which was opened on Tuesday, is comprised of 3 retrofitted 20-foot containers valued at more than $9 million. They were donated by the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, through the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR. The center offers prevention, treatment, and support services as part of Jamaica's national HIV program.
That will be able to provide confidential and other forms of discussions, counseling to Jamaicans living with HIV. And it's important because we want to encourage dialogue, we want to encourage treatment. And a big part of that is to overcome stigma, discrimination, and to provide confidentiality, which is the plank of healthcare generally. Thanks to the CDC, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, for the ongoing partnership.
U.S. Ambassador to Jamaica, His Excellency Nick Perry, says the donation reflects his government's commitment to supporting Jamaica in the fight against HIV.
We are committed to support Jamaica in achieving HIV epidemic control. We are pleased that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention addressed the identified need by the Southern Regional Health Authority for additional consultation space to enhance service delivery for people living here in Jamaica with HIV.
In other health news, just over $1 billion has been budgeted for the Code Care program, which is aimed at clearing the backlog of elective surgeries in hospitals. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, provided a breakdown of the cost to fund the 5 components of the program on Tuesday. He was responding to questions in the House of Representatives.
Rehabilitation of operating theaters, some $80 million. Public-private engagement, $200 million. Equipment, $223,590, $800,000, so $223,590,000. Nursing missions, $279 million. Additional staff hours, $153,928. That's overtime staff. Project management, $23,580. That's $23,580,000. Communications, which is $59 million, and that includes communication, not just advertising, but communication with the overseas entities, visiting those entities and so on. That gives you a grand total, Madam Speaker, of $1,019,139,489.
Code Care was announced by Minister Tufton in his sectoral presentation in May. It is designed to reduce wait time for elective surgeries to less than 180 days and increase the number of surgeries conducted over the same period by at least 80%, targeting about 2,000 surgeries over a 12-month period. Jamaica is set to benefit from investments in green and clean energy as well as climate change with the return of British International Investment (BII) to the region. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark welcomed the return of BII after a 20-year absence at the launch on Tuesday. According to Dr. Clark, the organization will be a vital investment partner in building out Jamaica's critical infrastructure such as renewable energy, water, and sewerage. It will also help to reduce Jamaica's dependence on imported commodities such as fossil fuel, thereby strengthening the island's resilience against economic shocks from external factors.
We are very pleased and very happy that British International Investment is coming back to Jamaica, and that opens the avenue for more and more investment that can help to improve standards of living in Jamaica and can help to transform the lived experience of the Jamaican citizen.
Managing Director of BII, Colin Buckley, says the company's 5-year strategy is to make investments that are productive, sustainable, and inclusive.
Going forward, we anticipate that 30% of all of the investments that we make will be climate finance, and all the investments that we make will be Paris aligned. So we're looking to invest in renewable energy generation, in helping companies to adapt and become more resilient to climate change. We're looking to support new technologies like batteries, green hydrogen, mini-grids, other off-grid solutions.
Several water distribution improvement projects are currently being undertaken in eastern St. Thomas. Among them is the upgrading of the National Water Commission (NWC's) Springfield facility, which is projected to be completed by mid-2024. The update came from Member of Parliament Dr. Michelle Charles during her State of the Constituency debate presentation in Parliament on Tuesday.
This involves the drilling of a new well, which was just completed, and the pump purchase is in progress. An upgrade to the electromechanical equipment, including new upgrade pumps, and the installation of new water lines for the new mains to Stanton housing scheme.
Work is also scheduled to take place at the Apple Farm pumping station in Bachelor's Hall. Assessment is being carried out by the NWC's engineering department for further recommendations and the creation of 6 discrete systems.
Materials have been secured to allow for the separation of the distribution and transmission lines so that the Johnstown tank can be filled and the area gravity fed. This will improve the service of the community, especially in the dry periods. This work will be completed within the next 2 months.
And finally, Education Minister Favour Williams says the work continues to modernize the process for establishing school boards. The strategies include building a database of prospective board members as well as supporting legislation to set the rules for how boards should be assembled. Minister Williams gave an update on the process while addressing Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing at Jamaica House. She says the ministry is making sure that people are aware of the manner in which they can signal that they wish to serve so that there's a wider pool of candidates from which to choose.
We have ensured that our boards are more properly trained. Over the last 2 years, we've had more sessions for boards to bring them up to speed in terms of their responsibility, the regulations under which they operate. We have, if you look at the record, we have ensured that all our school boards are constituted on time with the requisite persons.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
The art and science of maintaining bees is one of the many facets of agriculture. You may be concerned about the sting of this profession, but with experience and intuition for bee care, you will reap the benefits.
Apiculture is an art and it's a science. And it's an art and science of managing bees. So everything that we do in the hive, everything that is happening in the hive is very scientific. And as beekeepers, we craft the way how we manage the bees. So every beekeeper that you speak to, they will have a different approach to different aspects of beekeeping.
Given that the importation of honey into Jamaica is restricted, you can only imagine what big business beekeeping is for our farmers. They have expanded from just providing honey for citizens and have moved on to creating many different byproducts. But have you ever wondered how you can get involved and have your share of the sweetness?
For you to be a beekeeper, you have to develop certain comfort in dealing with this thing, which is not a maybe when you're a beekeeper in Jamaica. It is a must. So every time you get a sting, it becomes irritating to you. But then because we love what we're doing, we don't pay much attention to the irritating part. We're more focused on what we're doing, and we know that at the end of the day we're going to get honey. And when we get honey, we can convert that to money. So for us in St. Thomas, from time to time we have projects. And quite a few of the persons in St. Thomas who are beekeepers, they start out benefiting from projects that would have beekeeping component. So training is critical because then you have to know how to navigate your way through an environment that is challenging to allow you to harvest honey and to make a livelihood from beekeeping. I would advise anybody who would like to make their own box to purchase a box to start with, or you borrow a properly made box, because the bees are very scientific. They're very specific in terms of the design of the space that they occupy. And if you make a mistake and where you're supposed to have 3/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch, you put 1/2 inch, or you put less than 1/4 inch, then you're going to have problem as a beekeeper. So a beekeeper has to be knowledgeable about what is normal in the hive. So I tell people that when you come into the apiary, there's a normal sound. And if you listen, you hear a hum. When I hear that as a beekeeper, I know that they're finding food out there. They're finding nectar, they're finding pollen, and so on, when I hear this hum. When you go into the hive, there are many things in there that you have to observe. Right? You have to observe the condition of the comb, whether the combs are, I always said, old and crystallized, because once they get old and crystallized, you want to get rid of those combs. You want to look at the color of the brood. When we say the brood, we're talking about from the larval stage now to when they get to the pupal stage. You want to observe that, because there's a normal way that they should look, and there's an abnormal way when something is going wrong that they would look differently. They want to observe the queen and the condition of the queen as expressed in the amount of eggs that are laid, as expressed by the amount of seal brood that you see. Right? In the bee yard, you want to be observant of everything. I usually tell trainees that when you come into the bee yard or into the apiary, you have to look around at the trees and the shrubs around, because there might be a swarm that is lingering. That swarm might have taken place in your absence, might even be the very morning before you come to the apiary. You have to observe and see if any of that is there, because if you let that swarm escape, then you're looking at some dollars and some of your profitability that is going down the drain. You want to be able to have a bee yard that is not necessarily sterile, but clean enough that if you have dead bees around, you can see them on the ground. If you have bees that have been affected by the varroa mite and they are suffering from viral attack, there's a virus that they call the wing curl virus. Those bees, when they reach the age and the stage to fly, they cannot fly because the wings are deformed. And so those bees, you will see them crawling on the ground, and they will crawl around on the ground until ants get them or until they die.
That's just the bare bones of what you need to learn about beekeeping. Do more research to increase your knowledge. But as you do, ask yourself this: am I registered with the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA?
It is of great importance for a farmer to become registered or get registered with RADA, because indirectly they assist us in making national plans. For example, when we are doing our national plan, knowing the demographics of the farmer, where they are, the type of production that they do, it allows us to pinpoint as to what projects or programs can be implemented. And also, if we should have disaster, diseases, we know where the concentration of farmers are located. Or once you come to the RADA office, you can either speak with myself, the livestock officer, or the extension officer, and we'll provide you basic information on what is needed, how you go about it. We also give you the other linkages, such as the apiculture unit at Borders, that you can contact for other information. We also do assessment. We assist you in doing site assessment of your apiaries, and also kind of hold your hand in terms of getting started. And if we have projects or programs and we can have you on that project or program, we also put you there. The advice that I give to beekeepers is to do your production in a manner that has a business-like approach. From my observation, many beekeepers think that having the bees they're just there. They don't really take the time out to assess their apiaries. Mr. McNeish mentioned about sanitation. They don't really look at that. So I say just manage your apiary, monitor your hives, keep your proper record so that you can have a good production.
If you live in an urban area, many things may appear to be unachievable, such as having a yard to enjoy or finding a parking spot. But gardening does not have to be one of them. You might be shocked to learn that urban gardening benefits the economy, the ecology, and food security.
Urban gardening is the cultivation of vegetables, fruits, aromatic plants, and herbs in an enclosed space or your backyard. It's an ideal way for those with little space to participate in the process of food production, saving money while feeding themselves. Practical application is one of the best methods of imparting new knowledge. The Jamaica 4-H Clubs ran with that concept when it set up an urban garden display project at 123 Duke Street in downtown Kingston.
This project was born out of the COVID pandemic, where we recognize that food production has to become everybody's business. Traditionally, most of our food in Jamaica is cultivated in rural areas. We believe that even if you are in a dormitory community without land space, we believe that there's still an opportunity for you to produce. In this urban model, you would realize that we are demonstrating how you can do air planting, how you can do planting on your fence line, how you can produce food in different medium. And so we are utilizing a fully integrated approach from collecting your own water, by generating your own nutrient within the urban garden model setting, to be able to produce the food that you will eat.
There are a few vital things that plants need to grow. These include sunlight, proper temperature, moisture, air, and nutrients.
One of the basic pieces of technology inside our urban model garden is to demonstrate rainwater harvesting. From your roof, you're collecting your water, not only your roof, but just anywhere there's a runoff, because it could be a runoff underground. And what you want to do is to be able to have some storage capacity.
In the 4-H urban garden, the water is stored underground to ensure there is more available space on the surface. Of course, your environment will determine the most effective setup for your system.
One of the good things about Jamaica, other than when we have night, we always have sunlight. There are some plants that requires a lot more lighting than others. And so one of the things we demonstrate or we share with urban gardeners is where you put what. So there are some plants that you can do indoors. There are some plants that will strive and do better if they were to be grown outdoor, whether you're using container, you're using your fencing, you're using backyard, front yard, or your rooftop. Another feature that is demonstrated here is composting. To my right is our composting area, and we have a roto-composting bin, as well as we have a regular bin. And in fact, just about all the vegetative matter and the waste from the birds and the animals across there are in fact all placed into our composters, and that is broken down to provide organic matter. Because again, you know, your soil needs that for aeration, it needs it to add humus, and that's what is going to allow your plants to grow well.
And all this can be done in your own space. Livestock is another avenue you can choose in your urban gardening. Rabbit rearing is an excellent source of protein, and it doesn't require much space. You can also use the plants in the garden to feed them. Other animals can be included, such as chicken and fish.
We do a lot of different birds here. You can do your ornamental fish, you can do your tilapia, you know. And you can also do your domestic hens. Because that's something we are also promoting, is to get back to those domestic hens for eggs and meat. There are many things you can do in terms of livestock. It's almost as diverse as you're going for crops.
To replicate this model in your urban space, speak with your Jamaica 4-H Club's parish officer. You can receive seeds and other planting material to get you started.
One of the biggest threats right now in the world is not war or COVID, is really to have a sustainable supply of food. And the view is that no longer can we only rely on the traditional food producer. I think food production has to become everybody's business. And I think the extent to which we are able to get all our people to produce some of what you will consume, I think is one of the greatest steps we can take in looking at the phenomenon of food sustainability.
What we eat influences the quality of our life. Our next feature will show us how much and what type of fat we should have in our diet.
The human brain is 60% fat. Fats provide a storehouse of energy for the body and promote normal cell growth and healthy skin. Fat also acts like a cushion and heat regulator to protect the heart, liver, and other vital organs. And as most people would know, fat adds flavor to our food and helps us feel full longer. It is clear that having fat in our diet is beneficial in many ways, but too much or the wrong kind can be equally harmful. Fat is a source of essential fatty acids which help the body absorb vitamins A, D, and E. There are 3 types. Monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids are both considered good fats. The third, saturated fatty acid, is what we are often encouraged to avoid or lower our intake. So too, trans fat, which is created by a process called hydrogenation that makes the fat harder at room temperature to increase the shelf life.
What is in our foods impact on the quality of our lives?
The World Health Organization recommends that trans fat intake be limited to less than 1% of total energy intake, which translates to less than 2.2 grams per day with a 2,000 calorie diet.
Studies have shown that saturated fat increases the amount of bad cholesterol or LDL in the blood and has no effect on the good cholesterol HDL. Trans fatty acids increase the amount of bad cholesterol in the blood and also reduce the amount of good cholesterol. Diets high in these bad fats are linked to obesity, heart disease, and other cardiovascular related problems. Trans fat also causes malformation of cell membranes and other cell structures in the body, leading to weak cell walls and abnormal cell function. They are not recognized by enzymes and can cause neural degeneration and diminished brain function. So why then is trans fat used? Well, taste and economics. Trans fat makes food stay fresh on the shelf longer and improves food texture and flavor stability. Based on a 2021 assessment of the fatty acids in commonly consumed foods in Jamaica, our intake is very high.
If you look at confectionery, you see how high the percentages there, and it comes down in several of the other food products. Okay, this is just the percentage that have trans fat. Notice that the canned foods had none at all, or the beverages that we looked at had no trans fat. Okay? But this is just saying whether there was trans fat in the product. What we are even more interested in is which products had high levels of trans fat. In terms of the highest concentrations, more than 2% of fat as trans fat, we see the dairy products, and it goes down like that. And then when we now look at those that had the same products that had high saturated fat along with the trans fat, we see the figures here.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness is looking to change this and encourage better food production and consumption practices.
Healthier alternatives can be used that do not affect the taste or the cost of food.
Knowing what is in our food is part of the way forward. It is a lifestyle change to come through education, product reformulation, regulation, food labeling, and monitoring.
The elimination of industrially produced trans fats is part of a comprehensive policy package to prevent diet-related NCDs, which comprises mandatory food labeling, ingredients lists, nutrition panels declaring trans fats, interpretive front-of-package labeling based on nutrient profiles, restrictions on food marketing aimed at children and adolescents, mandatory standards for healthy food served in schools, and limits on sugar content.
It's not just about our resolve to do the right thing to consume what is in our best interest. That in and of itself is a challenge, because we have to now nudge, encourage, motivate, and in some instances legislate, I believe, certain types of actions to encourage better quality of life from a nutrition consumption standpoint. I think it is essential to advocating in the first instance for voluntary compliance as an immediate response.
As consumers, we have the choice of using naturally occurring unhydrogenated vegetable oils such as canola, safflower, sunflower, or olive oil. We can also limit red meat and choose lean cuts. It is also recommended that we steam, boil, or bake foods instead of cooking them in fats or oils. Another approach is to choose low-fat dairy products, poultry, and fish, and purchase processed foods made with unhydrogenated oils rather than partially or hydrogenated vegetable oils or saturated fats. Use soft margarines as a substitute for butter, and choose soft margarine over the harder stick forms. Limit consumption of commercially fried foods and baked goods made with shortening or partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. Not only are these high in fat, but it is also likely to be trans fat. And cut back on foods high in dietary cholesterol. Let's eat healthy and live well.
We've come to the end of our program. Get a recap of all you saw here and more on our website at www.jis.gov.jm. From all of us here at the JIS, I'm Audrey Williams. Bye for now.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.